Dear colleagues and guests, good afternoon. Today is the 1st of March 2022, 15:00 Moscow time. Let me start the work of the Dissertation Committee dedicated to the defense of the thesis by Tolstov, Nikolai Sergeevich, seeking a degree of candidate of economics in the degree field 5.2.4 finance on the topic assessment of corporate value within the framework of value-based management by the act of the academic secretary of St. Petersburg University, Alexander Valentinovich Gnatov, dated on the 16th December 2021, I, Ivanov Viktor Vladimirovich, Doctor of Economics, Professor, Head of the Department of Theory of Credit and Financial Management, St. Petersburg University, was appointed Chairman of the Dissertation Committee. On this committee also serve Natalia Stepanovna Voronova, Doctor of Economic Sciences, a professor of the Department of Theory of Credit and Financial Management, St. Petersburg University, Viktor Leonidovich Vasilenko, Doctor of Economic Sciences, professor of the Faculty of Technological Management and Innovation, National Research University, ITMO, and Viktor Stepanovich, Doctor of Economic Sciences, professor of the Department of Finances, St. Petersburg University, Economic University. And also online with us is Svetlana Mikhailovna Saxonova, PhD, professor, the Faculty of Business and Management and Economics, Latvian University, Latvia. Well, unfortunately, she's not online with us. Also present with us, she hasn't joined us yet. Nikolai Sergeyevich Tolstov is here, candidate, and also the academic advisor of Nikolai Sergeyevich, Vitaly Yulerevich Kovalov, professor of the Department of Theory of Credit and Financial Management, St. Petersburg University, is present with us as well, and to improve the quality of communication. Dear colleagues, please, those who are online with us, please turn off your microphones, but don't forget to turn them on when you're given the floor. I would like to remind you that in audio and visual recording is taking place of this session and is broadcast online, accompanied by Russian English interpretation. Also on the website of St. Petersburg University, that is the page that's related to our session, has an email address where you can send your questions, but these questions should have the affiliation and should be signed, and of the author of the question. No questions that will have has no relation to the academic discussion or anonymous questions will be read in accordance with the procedure of awarding Candidate of Sciences and Doctor of Sciences degrees at St. Petersburg University. A session of the Dissertation Committee is deemed legitimate if not less than 2/3 of the established membership of the Dissertation Committee, but not less than 4 people participate. Our Dissertation Committee consists of 5 people. 4 people are present at the moment, and therefore the quorum is there. Please, member of the Dissertation Committee, support office, start the logbook for this this session. This session has 2 hours, is 2 hours long. It will consider the following items: the agenda, short presentation by the chairman of the committee about the paperwork that has been submitted by the candidate, up to 5 minutes, short presentation of the candidate, 15 minutes, relating to dissertation questions to the candidate, not more than 2 minutes per questions, strictly related to the presentation. The candidate will answer them, not more than 5 minutes for all questions. Then all external reviews will be read if they've been submitted, any has been submitted, and then all members of the dissertation committee will take turns presenting their reviews, 10 minutes per speaker. And then number 7, the chairman will give an assessment of the dissertation as well, 10 minutes. Then the candidate will have 20 minutes to answer all the questions in the reviews, and then open floor discussion. Anyone willing to ask questions, who is in this room, not more than 2 minutes per speaker, will be able to ask a question or a comment. Then again, you have to register for this in the logbook, stating your affiliation, your name, your affiliation, and then the chairman will read any questions that have been submitted to the dissertation committee via email, but long questions that would take more than 2 minutes to read will not be read. The candidate will have 2 minutes to answer questions, 2 minutes per question. And then the academic advisor will have 3 minutes to discuss the candidate, and then the dissertation committee will have 5 minutes, can have 5 minutes behind closed doors to deliberate on the verdict with the broadcast switched off, and then open roll call vote, and the decision is taken, and then the concluding statement from the candidate, not more than 2 minutes. Do we have any objections? Then if there aren't, then I will start with item 1. Please, everybody who is in this room, turn off your mobile phones or the sound of your mobile phones. Now we're this short overview of the paperwork that has been submitted by Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov, seeking an academic degree of economic sciences in the degree field 5.2.4 finance, on the topic of the assessment of company value in the framework of value-based management. This thesis was accepted for defense by the act of the academic secretary of St. Petersburg University on the 29th November 2021. Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov, the author of the thesis, has published a number of works, 5 works in two publications in the journals approved by the Ministry of Education and Science of the Russian Federation, and in the Web of Science and Scopus journals, 3 publications. All documents that have been submitted according to to the information from the member of the Office of Academic Councils comply with the requirements. The copies of the documents are available from a member of the office. Before who is present here, before I give the floor to the candidate, I would like to ask you, members of the Dissertation Committee, do we have any questions, or do we need to go over each item of documentation to here? No need. Then the candidate will present his dear members of the Dissertation Committee, dear guests. Dissertation research on the topic, the assessment of company value in the system of value-based management, is presented to your attention. Political environment, sectoral sanctions, and the general instability of the financial markets lead to a significant increase in the volatility of the share price of Russian public companies. Periodic sales of Russian assets by foreign investors cause corrections in the stock market, which, on the one hand, affect the financial stability of companies, and on the other hand, create the basis for hostile takeovers and the transfer of part of Russian assets to the control of foreign companies. According to the annual review of M&A market in Russia, conducted by the audit company KPMG, over the last 6 years, the share of transactions for the purchase of Russian assets by foreign companies varies from 20% to 34% of the total volume of transactions. If assets are undervalued in these transactions, Russian companies receive significant amounts of cash less and are left with a low level of control of assets than with a more fair valuation. This forces public companies to look for and implement new tools for managing market capitalization that can ensure the financial security of the corporation and identify new incentive to increase its value. These circumstances determine the choice of the purpose of the dissertation research, which consists in substantiation the conceptual approach to assessing the effectiveness of the use of financial management tools in the process of managing the value of a public company. To achieve this goal, we set 7 tasks, which are presented in slides 4 and 5. Slide 5. In the course of the dissertation research, we obtained 5 main results. First result of the dissertation is the substantiation of the possibility of using financial indicators as a basis for assessing the impact of financial management on the dynamics of the company's value. According to the currently relevant concept of value-oriented management, VBM, value-based management, the main goal of a business is to maximize the welfare of its owners, and therefore all management decisions made in the company should be aimed at maximizing the value of the business, which depends not only on current financial results, but on the development of the prospects laid down in the business model. In this regard, as a basis for evaluating the effectiveness of value-based management, we considered the approach to use the tools of financial management, which forms most of the main factors influencing the company's value. Particular attention in the study was paid to the most common VBM indicators, as well as in traditional accounting indicators and multipliers that characterize the impact of a company's financial management on its value and periodically become the object of consideration in the domestic scientific literature in order to adapt them to Russian economic realities. Based on the results of the correlation analysis, it became clear that these indicators have an extremely unstable impact on the business value in the condition of the Russian corporate sector, which is explained by the reflection in these indicators of exclusively narrowly focused areas of financial management and the lack of an integrated approach to analyzing company performance. Each individual VBM indicator is focused on a narrow range of financial tasks. An individual is not able to reliably assess the effectiveness of the company's financial management as a whole. In this regard, the second result of dissertation research is an aggregated BBM indicator that evaluates the effectiveness of a company's value-oriented management through a comparison of actual and calculated capitalization parameters. The main advantage of the EMR indicator is that a really functioning market serves as a key indicator of the company's performance, which allows taking into account both the economic efficiency of the company and non-economic factors that form its value, which cannot be taken into account solely based on accounting and management accounting data. The correlation analysis of the EMR indicator with the market capitalization and the total shareholder return of the company based on the results of the following reporting period followed a significantly more stable correlation than the other previously analyzed indicators. We believe that the use of the EMR indicator proposed by us in the company's KPI system as a tool for assessing the effectiveness of value-oriented management will allow us to timely recognize the presence of problems associated with the market valuation of the company value and focus shareholders' attention on the factors of its formation. Earlier, we noted the need to use an integrated approach to evaluating the effectiveness of value-oriented management, which implies the coverage of all the main factors in the formation of the company's value. The EMR indicator allows us to recognize the presence of factors constraining the growth of market capitalization, but does not identify. In this regard, the third result of the dissertation research is our proposed set of interrelated indicators of the company's financial condition to control managerial factors that hinder the growth of market capitalization. To increase the objectivity of the assessment and reduce the level of subjectivity, three main selection criteria were established. First, the selected indicators provide a qualitative assessment of the performance of a particular task, which makes it possible to evaluate the corporation in comparison with other companies in the industry, therefore reducing the impact of macroeconomic factors that do not depend on the effectiveness of financial management. Secondly, the calculation of indicators should be simple and monovariable, which allows to reduce the level of subjectivity and limit the management's ability to manipulate the evaluation results. Thirdly, indicators must be balanced. This means that the inclusion of a certain indicator in the calculation does not lead to the orientation of management efforts towards its maximization to the detriment of other performance indicators. In addition to EMR indicators such as total shareholder return, fixed assets renewal ratio, revenue growth rate, financial independence ratio, current rate ratio, and net debt to EBITDA and a ratio were added to the model. This set of indicators allows the assessment to take into account all the most significant factors in the formation of the value in the company. Take into account its profitability, financial stability, solvency, market promotion, and others. In order to determine whether financial management is an additional growth driver or a factor holding back the growth of a company's market capitalization, we need to form an overall assessment of the effectiveness of value-based management based on the proposed set of indicators. In this regard, the fourth result of the station is the development and testing of a universal model for evaluating the effectiveness of value-oriented management of public companies, which makes it possible to identify incentives for the growth of market capitalization. Formation of the final assessment was carried out in 3 stages. At the first stage, the previously considered set of indicators was calculated. At the second stage, the indicators were evaluated according to the results of which each indicator was assigned a score based on its value. At the third stage, using weighting coefficients based on the points obtained, we formed the final assessment of the impact of value-oriented management on the value of each company under consideration. As a result of the actions, we formed a score from 10 to from 1 to 10 for each company, which allows us to assess the impact of management on the main indicators of business value. In addition, during stage 3, we obtained weighted scores of indicators, the comparison of which with other companies in the industry allows us to determine the main factors in hindering the growth of market capitalization. Also, it is worth noting that in the process of evaluating the effectiveness of value-based management is not enough to answer the question of whether the company's financial management system is working effectively. We must determine how efficient the corporation is and what reserves it has to increase its value. In this regard, the fifth result of the dissertation research is the determination of the ranges of values of indicators for evaluating the effectiveness of value-oriented management in the proposed model, based on the analysis of the actual reporting data of companies in various sectors of the economy. With the help of these criteria and ranges, it became possible not only to determine the compliance of the company's indicators with the recommended and industry average values, but also the degree of this compliance, which, in the case of comparing the results obtained with other corporations in the industry, makes it possible to determine the factors that have a restraining effect on the growth of market capitalization. In addition, the transformation of all values of indicators into a single management scale made it possible to form a general assessment of the effectiveness of value-oriented management, which makes it possible to determine whether the current financial management system increases the company's value or destroys it. Correlation analysis between the scores obtained and the value of the company showed a stable direct relationship, averaging more than 70%. This indicates that the higher the companies received the final scores according to the results of the Senate, the greater the increase in value they provided to shareholders according to the results of the next reporting period, which confirms the effectiveness of the model and the feasibility of its use in the Russian corporate sector. At this stage of development, the model allows shareholders to determine the general trend of value-based management and answer the question, is the financial management system an additional driver of growth or a factor holding back the growth of the company's value? How valuations are generated by the model give shareholders additional confidence that the company will show a great increase in value when the market rises than most in the industry, and in the event of a market decline, a small decrease in market capitalization. We believe that improving the quality of the results is possible over longer periods of observation, and in the case of covering a large number of industries and companies, which will allow us to determine not only the trend of the impact of value-based management on the value of the company, but also qualify this impact in terms of market capitalization and total shareholder return. This achievement of the achievement of these results made it possible to formulate the scientific novelty of the dissertation research, which consists in the developing and substantiating a conceptual approach to assessing the effectiveness of financial management tools and managing the value of a public company based on the comparison of a set of parameters in a corporation's market capitalization and its fundamental value. Thank you very much, dear ladies and gentlemen. This is the report is over. Thank you very much, colleagues. Do you have any questions for the candidates? Yes, please. Nikolai Sergeevich, could you tell us, when you looked at the number of indicators of accounting, market, value indicators, well, you chose, some in the value and market indicators. Or how did you choose the value, these indicators? What was the principle of choice? As far as the use they chose, we did first of all a traditional analysis of the most popular, the most commonly used indicators. We identified the level of their interdependence with the parameters of the company value, and we found out that the most impact have the parameters that the liquidity and solvency, and but this impact was not overly weighted, and therefore then we use these common indicators from practical point of view, the ones that are used from broker companies and corporations in Russia. Any other questions? I have a question then. Nikolai Sergeevich, you have a slide 3.5. 3.5, yes. 3/5. Yeah. The previous one. Is criteria to increase the objectivity and to decrease the subjectivity. There are three criteria of selection: simplicity and monovariant variation of simplicity of calculation. What's the complex? Where is the complexity of calculation with the red image? When we assess, when we look for criteria for assessment, we use some very complex indicators with a high level of subjectivity. For example, currency added indicator, and then weighted average weighted value. And because they were too complex, we didn't include them, and in order to increase the objectivity of the model, only the EMR coefficient, the parameter was used by us. Well, we used only the calculations that have only one approach, and variance exists, unfortunately. So the criteria, the simplicity is that there's input data and there's financial reporting, accounting reporting. Please tell me your approach and methods and instruments that you use. Are they prone to being forecast, or are they in the realm of probability? My question is, some events suggest that the country has changed and will change drastically, totally. All our instruments that we use in the dissertation are aimed at the assessment of the results that a company has already achieved. To forecast the value of the company is not, our instrument cannot be used to forecast the value of the company, because this market has very high volatility. We can find the best companies on the market, and then find on the market, but unfortunately, if you buy these shares, the stock, they cannot they cannot be sure to bring profit. On the contrary, we buy shares of companies that have very low value. They can, in fact, prove to be very profitable, because this is the stock market has a lot of volatility, and in the context that we're living in now, it's not possible to forecast anything. And what we're trying to see is that what gives the shareholders more confidence that when the market value of the shares of the company decrease, that they do not decrease too drastically. My question comes from the previous question. You use a very transparent set of tools to treat data and sampling methods. And did you find did you think of any graph model or any other model that would account for even higher volatility? So this is not a question, but it's just a, well, with such volatility, maybe you should have used more specific volatility targeted methods. Unfortunately, we didn't use that in the we looked at the linear correlations, not forecasts. And well, this could be done in our future research, and I will certainly look at it. Non-linear ways of looking at interdependencies. Any other questions? No questions. Then Nikolai Sergeevich, take a seat, and we will continue to the next item. Svetlana Mikhailovna is back. Good afternoon. Can you hear us? I can hear you and see you. Thank you. Well, you missed a little bit of a discussion. Could you hear? I have a presentation. The presentation of the. Unfortunately, this was I couldn't be online before. Well, members of the Dissertation Committee will now have the floor to present their assessment, and the candidate will answer critical remarks and questions. There are no external reviews for this session, therefore we proceed to the reviews of the Dissertation Committee. First, I would like to state some of my recommendations. Well, all the reviews have been published, and they're publicly accessible. Therefore, I suggest that you only focus on key issues, and not that you don't read full reviews. If there are no objections, well, of course, you are free to read your review in full. Then the Nikolai Sergeevich, I have a question. After each review, you will answer. Then we continue. The first review by Voronova Natalia Stepanovna. Well, just a key point. We are seeing the relevance of this work increasing at every minute, and with the outside pressures mounting on the Russian economy, and this makes the thesis all the more relevant, because the market values of companies will be very volatile this time. Everything everything that's needed to be done for as part of the relevance and originality of the research is in the research, and I mentioned that, and that the work is independent, and I would like to mention which results are the most valuable, and what directions, what blocks manifest the novelty. First of all, what the thesis has is the development of a theory of value-based management to justify the system of indicators of the effectiveness of management through the value of Russian public companies that would take into account corporate governance and aggregated, which has includes the aggregated parameter of market recognition. And the second one is the structuring of indicators of financial state of a public company based on the principle of their applicability for the assessment of the impact of financial management on the growth of capitalization through the control factors of restraining value. And the third is the the development and testing of a large base of empirical data of the model of assessing the efficiency of value-based management. And so the all the results are applicable, can be applied to a real-life economy, and I would like to mention here that there are questions on my question is that when you present graphically the impact of the effectiveness of fulfilling tasks of financial management on the fundamental value of the business, the author doesn't specify the content of some levels of the scheme of the chart, and if you present at the second level from above from the top the tasks of financial management, then you have to specify which property is used by the author to systematize them. And that's page 52 of the Russian version of the dissertation. This is in the work, the formulation of a task, objective. Well, there are different formulations, but this chart is not clear. Now, when you talk about the commonality of EBITDA parameter, you say that it is contained in financial reports of most major public companies that have public reporting. Do you take into account in this case the public companies of the United States which report using US GAAP? That's page 54. So then the next when you look at when you present your own model of assessing the effectiveness of value-based management of public companies, is it presented as a universal method, but is it tested on non-financial corporations as well? It is tested only on non-financial corporations. Is it applicable to financial public companies? Also, when you present your own approach to the system of parameters of the effectiveness of value-based management, the author calls it a balanced system of corporate indicators, page 100 and further. How can it correlate with the common notion of balanced scorecard? Does it have the mean? Is it important that this a new parameter has a different name, and is it so different from what I just mentioned? Well, there are some remarks in terms of typos, and also there are some points concerning some formulations in Russian, for example, the collocation of bowling of or scoring of parameters. And this word doesn't exist in Russian really. Nevertheless, the dissertation of Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov complies totally with the requirements of St. Petersburg on the awarding of kind of sciences degree. So you have Natalia Stepanovna. Natalia Stepanovna, thank you very much for your review. record the first question that you mentioned, the clarifying there really is no systematization of financial management tasks in the work. At the same time, we did not take into account this task, since this figure is in addition to the main goal of the study. Its main task was to emphasize the importance of financial management in shaping the value of the company. So, second, clarifying the question regarding the use of EBITDA by U.S. public companies reporting under U.S. and GAAP. Noting the wide distribution of this indicator among companies around the world, we meant, among other things, U.S. public companies that report under U.S. GAAP. This American standard of financial accounting, despite the fact that EBITDA is not an integral part of either IFRS or US GAAP reporting. Most companies were reported in their annual reports. Also, it is worth noting that the US Securities and Exchange Commission regulates the calculation of this indicator for residents of the US stock market. This is due to the fact that companies often made adjustments to this indicator, which no longer made it possible to correctly compare companies with each other and could mislead investors. And therefore, if a company makes adjustments to an indicator that are not provided for by the US Securities and Exchange Commission, the resulting indicator should have an adjusted postscript, i.e. adjusted. This should be reflected in the name of the indicator itself. Well, therefore, these adjustments should be reflected in the name of such indicator in the report. Next, clarifying question about the applicability of the model to financial companies. There are very few really absolutely universal models in nature. Almost always there are certain reservations or some additional conditions are required for the model to work with this model. In this case, we believe that the general principle of the model is the structure of the model is applicable to companies in the financial sector, but with certain adjustments in terms of liquidity. That's first and foremost. And then, because we compare the financial companies with manufacturing companies, the ratio of own capital and the requirements for equality are different. Just the reporting will change too, yes. And the reporting parameters will change too, but there will be some replacements, and the scale of assessment will change too. But the model on the whole can be adapted to non-financial organizations there. Next, a clarifying question about the balanced scorecard. In general, the model corresponds to the logic of building BSC, but it is focused only on the financial parameters of the company. BSC involves a balance between four main parameters, which include This number one is finance, which according to the authors, Kaplan and Norton, form the basis of the system. Then customer relationships, internal and business process, and staff training and development. The model proposed by us evaluates only the financial component, but at the same time seeks to ensure a balance between the factors that form the value of the company. As for the as far as the question about the simultaneous use of as far as the corporate indicators, the word corporate in the title does not have a fundamental meaning. Only the emphasis is placed on the use of the model in the corporate sector. And as far as the simultaneous use of page and endnotes, page notes, and in the text of the dissertation. According to the text of the dissertation, almost all electronic resources were placed in page footnotes. This was done for ease of use of information sources. The paper contains links to news publishers and cover events. I'm satisfied with, but yes, with as far as the word ballistic is, I'm happy. Thank you very much. Take a seat. Now, Viktor Leonidovich Vasilenek. The dissertation is quite relevant, especially within the context we're living through at the moment. Businesses now need to vary their business models and to use new instruments to manage their capitalization and trying to find ways to sustain their capitalization. The work focuses on the management of value, and the validity of summaries of the findings is there. The work has a practical and theoretical significance. I'd like to focus on what I would say the academic novelty. This is, well, the first one is the work has quite important elements of novelty that have to do with the development of approaches to the assessment of the effectiveness of financial management to boost market capitalization of the market capitalization of public companies. I would like to here focus on EMR. Is an indicator that is compatible, that compares the market capitalization of a company with its estimated value, and this is a good instrument to use here. And then the approach to the classification of financial parameters used to assess the effectiveness of value-oriented management in public companies is substantiated, and then a model of assessing the effectiveness of value-oriented management of public companies is developed that allows us to assess the quality of financial management by the company in comparison with its main competitors. And well, but there are also questions, of course. In paragraph 2.3, the author says that EMR assesses the results achieved by the company and the effectiveness of value-based management for a particular period of time, and is not suitable to forecast stock values, whereas the subsequent analysis shows that the stronger the EMR module deviates from zero, the lower the total shareholder solvency of the company. The solvency of the company demonstrates in the subsequent reporting period, and therefore we believe that there's a contradiction in the statements in this to the statement that EMR cannot be used to forecast the value of the company. Nevertheless, the dissertation complies fully with the requirements of St. Petersburg University on awarding academic degrees of kind of sciences. Viktor Leonovich, thank you very much for your report. As far as the EMR shows that where the company is undervalued or overvalued, and for the observation period, there are objective reasons. There are objective why the testing of a model begins, and well, the EMR indicator reflects how much the company is undervalued. And the indicator can indicate the most probable direction of movement in the value of shares, but not any specific values, and not even the time frame in which this movement will occur. Gazprom and Surgutneftegas, as a striking example of this, in all periods under review, including 2018, these companies were significantly underestimated by the market in terms of ER. At the same time, judging by the share price chart, this trend arose much earlier than the period considered in the paper and the thesis. The correction in the value of these companies occurred only in 2019. The value of the shares of Gazprom and Surgutneftegas increased by 67% and 66%, respectively. That's quite a big increase. Just over several months, they grew so much. EMR-oriented investor could wait for this correction. Well, if the investors looked at the EMR invested in this company, they would wait for 6 years in the stabilizing of for the growth. If the most, but for comparison, the Moscow Exchange Index from 2014 to 2019, i.e. the period in which these companies were undervalued, showed an increase of 109%. Therefore, investors simply invested in an exchange-traded fund. They would earn significantly more than they expected to increase in value of terms of EMR. We believe that in order to make forecasts, it's necessary to take into account a much larger list of factors in which it is necessary to take into account not only the company's cash flows, but also changes in the dividend policy, the policy for working with minority shareholders, possible promising investment projects, and the timing of their implementation, explored reserves of minerals, and the dynamics of demand for them, as well as other factors that are uniquely determined on the basis of the EMR indicator. Next, clarifying the question accounting for the buyback operators and additional share issues, FPO and the model. These operations are taken into account in the model when calculating the total shareholder return, TSR. In the course of writing this work, we were faced with the question of how best to calculate the total shareholder return for the purposes of the study. The first option was to reflect the overall increase in the company's market capitalization and the total amount of dividends paid. In this case, the share repurchase and additional issue transactions would not be taken into account. The total shareholder return would characterize the benefits of owning the company as a whole. So this is the dynamic. However, the public joint stock companies in most cases consist of a large number of shareholders, on the value of whose shares and these transactions could have a significant impact. Therefore, it was decided to consider the indicator of total shareholder return per share. Thus, with the company's total market capitalization conditionally unchanged, we took into account the dilution of shareholders' shares as a result of additional share issue operations, or vice versa, an increase in the share in the case of buyback operations. So the dispersion of the shares will negatively buyback operations will affect stock values. Some shares are of course are removed from the circulation, and therefore we decided to calculate the total shareholder return per share for a share, and therefore, because we took the factually paid dividends divided by the number of shares. So, how do they affect the capitalization? The buyback, how does it affect capitalization then? Well, the question is how buybacks how will buyback affect buyback operations? Will not affect drastically the value of the company, the capitalization of the company. It can show that the company has excess liquidity, and therefore it can use some of the cash to buy back some of the shares, but also it can it can manifest that the company has too few investment projects in order to use all the liquidity that it has. When the uncertainty level increases, so in the conditions that we are living, how will it affect buyback capitalization? I understand that it's easier to say how it will work in theory, but what will work in reality? It's very hard to isolate the impact of one factor, buyback operations, and how these operations will affected the capitalization. Because of the multiplicity of different factors. Well, it's hard to. Your position is clear, I understand. Next question. And then the second, next remark, as far as the subjectivity of qualimetric models. When forming the model, we try to minimize the influence of the analyst on the final results. First, we selected indicators themselves. The selected indicators themselves contribute to this. All indicators, with the exception of EMR, are very easy to calculate and have a strictly defined algorithm for their calculation, according to which everyone can quickly check their correctness.
Показатели рассчитать и проверить правильность исходных данных, которые.
As for EMR, and in particular the fundamental value, this indicator consists of four main elements: DCF model, net asset value, market capitalization, and D and T results reconciliation methodology. Market capitalization, net assets are also determined quite easily and unambiguously. DCF modeling remains the most subjective element, a very subjective element. So many factors affected. If you put analysts in the same room and give you different the same input, they will have all different results. To reduce the subjectivity of this subjectivity, we used the DNT method. This means that the questionnaire of this method takes into account the high subjectivity of the DCF model, which leads to a decrease in the weight of this element in the final indicator of the fundamental value. And this works better. So this is the first stage of decreasing the subjectivity of judgment. Secondly, second stage, which we used to lower the subjectivity of DCF modeling, and this the weighting coefficients themselves to form the total, the ultimate scores. Secondly, when forming the final scores, weighting coefficients are used while the EMR indicator has a weight of 35%, which even more smooths out possible analyst errors. And thirdly, In the overwhelming majority of cases, the possible subjective judgments of the analyst in the process of DCF modeling will be nullified directly by the indicator scaling scale. It uses ranges of values, and therefore it becomes possible to influence the results of the assessment only if the obtained EMR value is very close to the interval boundary. In all other cases, either an error in the DSCF model will be obvious and improbable initial data will be introduced, or the interval will completely eliminate the data of model inaccuracies. And we can look at the reporting data of any company to do that. Nikolai Sergeevich, we would like to give the floor to Victor Stepanovich Voronov, please. Thank you. Well, I would like to stress that the relevance of the topic is there, then the novelty. I stress that the novelty is there too. The model that we heard about is a new step, and that helps to evaluate the market capitalization of the companies, and I think the industries that the methods always apply to are good material for these models, and I would like to stress the validity of the findings is obvious, and quite a few sources were reviewed in the work, and you know, these can be used to form recommendations for companies. As far as the critical remarks, I want to say that in point 4, the model is said to be universal. Some public companies and the insurance and financial sectors have different structures of capital compared to other industries presented in the work, and we have to, and therefore the model may not be called universal. And I would like to say that the higher the score of a company, the higher the growth, or the lower the decrease of the capitalization or the dividend for the shareholder. Well, I would say that this applies more to a growing market, but this model has not been tested for a declining market. And nevertheless, my remarks just call for a debate rather than diminish the quality of the dissertation and the assessment of the high assessment of the dissertation that I have. And therefore my final conclusion is that the thesis of Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov on the topic, the assessment of an assessment of the company value and the system of value-based management complies with the requirements of St. Petersburg University on awarding academic degrees, and therefore the candidate Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov deserves to be awarded the third degree of candidate of economic sciences in finances. Thank you very much, Viktor Stepanovich. And now, thank you very much, Viktor Stepanovich, for your review. The first remark, this is about the number of industries that we used for testing and the period. And this is, it started in 2016 as the observation period, and there are objective reasons why the testing of the model begins in 2016. To calculate the EMR indicator, which is one of the main results of the study, retrospective data from companies for the last 4 to 5 years compiled in accordance with unified financial reporting standards are required. IFRS was adopted as the main standard in the work. At the same time, some fairly large and significant companies for analysis, such as Lukoil, MTS, Megaphone, and NLMK, Mitchell, they began to report under IFRS only starting from 2014, and in the case of Lukoil, in 2015, and Lukoil, of course, is one of the major producers of oil in Russia, which did not allow us to assess the performance of the companies earlier. As for the number of industries, unfortunately, almost none of the Russian companies duplicate their own reporting in a format compatible with Microsoft Excel, and add-ons such as Power Query do not allow digitizing company reports with 100% accuracy in a format that is compatible with Microsoft Excel, with which it would be possible to immediately start working. This is especially true for scanned reporting forms, in which, in this regard, the labor with the signature of the CEO. In this regard, the labor costs associated with the formation of the initial information base have increased significantly, and therefore we decided to analyze the two largest sectors of the Russian industry in terms of market capitalization, as well as the communications sector as a service sector, obtain results that reflect the significant size of the Russian economy. Well, in further studies, of course, we plan to expand the number of industries analyzed. We want to use machine manufacturing, and other industries. We will expand the number of industries, of course. As far as the comment about the applicability of the model to banking and insurance companies, there are very few really absolutely universal models in nature, as we already noted. Almost always there are certain reservations, and our model has reservations to the financial organizations, including banking organizations and insurance organizations have some special features which the model doesn't account for at the current stage, but the model can be adjusted to assess banking and insurance companies. First of all, we have to adjust the scale of assessment and the list of parameters. And I think the model is applicable to banking organizations and insurance organizations. The next was about the the statement about testing the model in a falling market. Indeed, during the entire period of approbation of the model, there's a bull market without any significant shocks of protracted falls. However, in this period, against the backdrop of a bullish trend, there were also local drops in capitalization within individual sectors. For example, according to the results of 2017, there was a drop in the market capitalization of the oil and gas sector. The vast majority of the analyzed companies lost from 3.5% to 34% of the market value during this period, including such companies as Rosneft, Gazprom, Surgutneftegas, and Novatek. And at the same time, even dividend payments could not cover this correction, in connection with which more than half of the companies demonstrated negative total shareholder return. At the same time, the correlation of these results with company estimates for 2016 was 84% in terms of market capitalization and 80% in terms of total shareholder return in the oil and gas sector. Thus, it turned out that against the backdrop of a local correction, the oil and gas sector companies that received higher scores showed a smaller decrease in market capitalization. Based on this, the above claim was put forward, and of course this claim, of course, needs further substantiation. If you take we could take other areas, other periods, and especially this year, what will happen at the end of 2022. I have Svetlana Mikhailovna, can you hear us? Svetlana Mikhailovna, can you hear us? No, she cannot hear us. Yes, I can. I can report my review. You are given the floor for your review. Because all the previous speakers characterized the dissertation work, I will just say something about the novelty of the work and the validity and some findings and recommendations, because the dissertation gave me a very positive impression. I enjoyed reading it, and I liked it because it included concrete recommendations and a model how companies can organize their management and see and prevent the negative dynamics of the project. So therefore, to the novelty and the author of this station the liquidity of capital was one of the key factors, and the second is the new value-based indicator was introduced by the author that allows through the comparison of market capitalization and expected value of the company to give a total assessment of the level of value-based management in the company. And also the author presents the methodology of calculating this. Third, the author determined that taking any individual indicator as a KPI of the process of management, managing value, can direct the efforts of the management to maximize the financial condition of the company, and therefore without damaging the total financial state of the company. Well, for a methodology of classifying financial parameters that relate to the efficiency of value-based management in the company is presented. It allows us to, on the basis of financial indicator values, to identify factors that restrain the growth of market capitalization of the market capitalization of a company. And also this approach is used to assess the values of financial indicators. And 5, the qualimetric model was developed to assess the efficiency of value-based management, and therefore we can get away from the subjectivity of such assessment. So the analysis of the effectiveness of the model in the Russian corporate sector showed that the scores correlate with the dynamic of market capitalization and the total shareholder return of the analyzed companies in the analyzed companies. So this is the novelty as far as the validity of the findings, the conclusions, the recommendations. The validity of the conclusions is based on the analysis of the empirical base of the research. 20 companies and 3 industries have been analyzed for the period of 2016 to 2018. Which used data that was published in 2019. The author chose the oil and gas sector and the metallurgy as major sectors of the Russian economy, and also telecommunications as a service sector of our economy and of the country's economy, and to show that the model can be used to any industries. And I believe that the provisions that are put forward and the recommendations formulated in the dissertation are also based on a very thorough survey of literature. 179 sources were analyzed. I would like to ask questions. The author doesn't give his assessment of the possibility of using this model in relation to foreign issues, and can you use it to analyze foreign markets, including the USA? The second, the model is based on the correlation analysis of the connection of the scores with the dynamics of the shareholder rate, the rate of shares annually in the year that followed the reporting year, and can you use this model for private investors, and is it feasible? Nevertheless, all these questions don't diminish the quality of the dissertation. My highest assessment of the dissertation, and therefore I would like to stress that the candidate Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov deserves the degree of candidate of economic science to be awarded to him in finances. Thank you. Thank you, Smetlana Mikhailovna. Nikolai Sergeevich, you have thank you very much, Svetlana Mikhailовna, for your review as far as the first whether we can use the model for international companies and international markets. I think we can use this model for the US market, for example, but you have to adjust it to the conditions of every individual market. By themselves, the indicators used in the model are quite universal and should not lose their relevance in other markets, while the scale for assessing these indicators will definitely undergo adaptation. But, for example, when assessing the financial independence ratio and the condition of the Russian corporate sector, in interval from 60 to 70% was adopted as the recommended value, which many Russian companies try to comply with. So as to the United States market, in turn, many companies there have a share of equity capital ranging from 40 to 50%, i.e. most of the company's assets are financed by borrowed funds, and this is considered the norm.
За счет заемных источников финансирования.
In addition, the ratios themselves will change in terms of indicators, and therefore, we'll, for example, we use the interval plus minus 10%, and the interval step of 10% as the recommended value for the EMR indicator. In the Russian economic realities, we This is in these values are for the Russian market, but as far as the U.S. market, it is very likely that there most of the companies will fall into this interval, which will not allow them to be evaluated relative to each other. In this regard, in our opinion, before using the model in foreign markets, it is also necessary to form new intervals for each indicator using the 3 sigma rule. Next, clarifying question about the possibility and the expediency of using the model for the needs of private investors. The model can be used by private investors when conducting a financial analysis of a company, but only as one of the assessment tools. In addition to the factors taken into account in the model, the investment analysis must take into account macroeconomics, policy, the position of the central bank in relation to interest rates, inflation, industry analysis, and other factors that are not, many other factors that are not associated with any of one company are not required to assess the effectiveness of value-oriented management. Therefore, the model in this form can only be used as an auxiliary assessment tool. As for the expediency of using the model here, first of all, it is worth considering the principle of portfolio diversification and the complexity of calculations. A more or less diversified portfolio includes 15 to 20 companies. To identify these 15 to 20 most investment attractive companies, you will have to analyze several times more issues and select the best ones from them, which will require a significant amount of time. In our opinion, it is not advisable for private unqualified investors with small portfolios to use the model, since the effect of its application may not be worth the labor costs that will be required for this. So the financial return is not worth it, really. For a private investor. If the investor works with impressive amounts of funding and has employees who in any case digitize the company's statements, then the model can be used in a semi-automatic mode, and in our opinion, it is advisable to use it as an assessment tool if it can be if the data can be arranged in an Excel file. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for your answers. Yes. Thank you very much. We continue. Dear members of the Dissertation Council, I will read my, first of all, the relevance is absolutely obvious. The concept of value-based management is also established and is used in many countries. The methodology of the author to assess the value-based management and restraining the growth of market capitalization, enlarges the potential for analysis of companies. And this is another argument for the relevance of the work. Of course, the findings that are put forward and the conclusions and the dissertation are valid. The author combines theoretical and practical aspects of developing instruments to balance assessment of this valuation of the efficiency of value-based management. Well, the most important results of the thesis include that the effectiveness, the efficiency of value-based management by public companies can use or must use the parameters of comparing market capitalization and fundamental value of the public company. Then that's the quality-metric model of evaluating the efficiency of value-based management is justified. These are pages 116 to 919. Well, every work has some drawbacks, and this is what I think. I doubt that it is visible to use TCR for this, for the evaluation of the efficiency of value-based management, because the stock market rates, the stock market's dynamics of shares is very volatile. On page 91, you provide values of TCR for individual industries for 2016 to 2018. I didn't see clearly how you calculated such, how you came up with such values. On page 129, you state that EMR can help evaluate the economic efficiency of a corporation and also the total efficiency of value-based management. How would you substantiate what you mean? How would you explain what you mean by the efficiency in both of these cases? And then it's controversial. The EBITDA calculations are in table 19. In table 11 are controversial. I'm not sure, and there are some typos and also awkward formulations. And nevertheless, the critical remarks do not diminish the value of the work and my favorable impressions of the work. And the work is written in a professional and well-formulated manner, and the author demonstrates erudition and independence in developing methodology of research, and therefore the candidate Tolstov Nikolai Sergeevich is entitled to being awarded an academic degree of candidate of economic sciences in the degree field 5.2.4 finance, items 9 and 11 of the procedure of awarding academic degrees at Sergeevich University have been complied with. Thank you very much. Yes, please, your answers. Thank you very much, Viktor Vladimirovich. As far as the first, about the volatility of EBITDA, TSR, sorry. Indeed, the TSR indicator is very volatile, especially in the condition of the Russian economy. Nevertheless, we consider it necessary to use it in the model. This indicator directly shows the dynamics of the shareholders' well-being, which is what value-oriented management is ultimately focused on. As for the volatility of this indicator, we do not see any problems in this, since in accordance with our rating scale, TSR does not have any strict recommended values, but is estimated relative to industry average data. Even in the event of a protracted market decline, a number of companies will decide to support their own shareholders by paying dividends, which will not only allow shareholders to partially or fully compensate for the fall, but will also have a positive effect on the value of the company's shares. In this way, we evaluate how much profitability the company provides to shareholders relative to competitors and the sector as a whole. So if the decline in capitalization is not great, then of course and this dividends will compensate or even cover the fall completely. As far as the procedure for calculating, as far as the why we take the total value for the period, there were cases that a company didn't pay dividends for some time, and then suddenly decided to pay huge dividends, and you would have thought that they are leaders in the market, but we have to level off this spike, and therefore we take 2 periods, and we actually think that we should take 3 or 4 periods. The next question, clarified question about the procedure of calculating engagement of total shareholder return, page 91, table 25. Table 25 presents the results of the correlation of the EMR indicator with the dynamics of market capitalization and the total shareholder return in the context of the analyzed industries. The results in terms of total shareholder return were obtained as follows. First, the total shareholder return was calculated for unanalyzed companies in the sectors represented. We took the value of the shares of each individual company at the end of the period, added the actual dividend payments, subtracted the value of the shares at the beginning of the period, and divided the resulting value by the value of the shares at the beginning of the period. So this is annual. Further, using a standard MS Excel analysis package, a correlation analysis was made of the obtained values of the total shareholder profitability indicator with the values of the EMR indicator for the previous period. Thus, we got the results presented in table 25. Number 3. Question regarding the assessment of economic efficiency of the corporation and the overall effectiveness of the value-based management using the EMR indicator on pages 129 and 130. On page 129, the cost-effectiveness assessment refers to not to the EMR itself, but to the stock market as a whole, on the basis of which the EMR is calculated to a large extent. It was understood that the value of shares on the market seeks to take into account, among other things, the financial results of the company, the cost of debt financing, the profitability of investment projects, and other factors related to the financial and economic block. Therefore, we used this statement not in relation to the EMR, but to the whole base on which the EMR indicator is calculated. By assessing the overall effectiveness of value-based management, on page 130, we mean by that the EMR indicator, unlike most other VBM indicators, does not evaluate any individual financial or economic parameters of the company's activities, such as profitability, financial stability, solvency, but takes into account all the main factors in the formation of the value of the company as a whole. And these factors are taken into account during exchange trading, expressed in the dynamics of market capitalization and its deviation from the fundamental value of the company. As far as the calculation of EBITDA, there are several options for calculating this indicator, including OIBDA, which takes into account only operating activities and does not
EBITDA, который очень похож на
doesn't take into account non-operating income and expenses. We used the classic formula for calculating the indicator approved by the U.S. Securities and Exchange Commission. This calculation we took into account the operational and other expenses. We didn't take into account some ad hoc expenses. And the American regulator argues that the companies cannot justify the one-time nature of these articles and guarantee that they will not appear in the future. regarding editorial comments on the text of the work. They really are there, unfortunately. We'll take them into account to further. According to the agenda states that now we have we can present a choice, present the opportunity for anyone present to speak up, and no one willing to. And so we have no, and we need to discuss the any questions that have been sent by email. No questions have been sent. And now the academic advisor will have the floor and will discuss the candidate. Dear members of the Dissertation Committee, my review is published on the website. I describe short in brief the relevance of the work, the findings. Now I'd like to say a few words from me personally in relation to the candidate and the work that he presents today. First of all, Nikolai is a young lecturer on the economic faculty of Kuban University, and he teaches the courses that have to do with the dissertation. This thesis is actually reflects everything that he has done since he joined the master's degree program, and then postgraduate and then teaching career. He presented his research at different research seminars and conferences that are related to financial management. Very good responses to criticism, and very rationally, soberly. And just to draw your attention to the quite long list of works, 7 works. For this level of research work is quite a great result, and especially in journals of Web of Science and Scopus. And I would like to ask you to endorse the research. This is an independent and well-formed young scholar. Thank you very much. Colleagues, do we have any questions? No? Everything is clear. Then our discussion is over, and the questions are over. Before we vote, I would like to ask members of the Dissertation Committee, do we need any objections as to the procedure of this, including in relation to no objections, no critical remarks? Svetlana Mikhailovna? No objections, no critical remarks. Dear colleagues, before we vote, we have a chance to make a break to discuss the results. Do we need? This break is announced. This is 5 o'clock. This is a technical break. Please turn off the broadcast, and then we will discuss something.
Так, уважаемые коллеги, объявляю перерыв окончен.
The break is declared closed. This is 17:11. We're continuing our session. Please turn on the broadcast and make sure that the broadcast is working. Can you hear us? Can we see each other? Yes. Therefore, I put to the vote a resolution to award Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov the degree of candidate of economic sciences and finance. When you vote for this resolution, you attest that that item A11, clause 11, in the procedure of awarding academic degrees at St. Petersburg University is complied with. It states that the candidate, the author of an academic of a thesis, referred to the authors or sources of citation of materials and findings, and that there are no issues of plagiarism in this. So, Natalia Stepanovna, your opinion. I think that Nikolai Sergeevich deserves to be awarded the candidate of science degree in finance, economic sciences. Victor Leonidovich Vasilenko, I think that the candidate deserves to the academic degree, the sought academic degree. Victor Stepanovich Voron, I totally endorse the resolution to award Tolstov Nikolai Sergeevich the academic degree of candidate. And I, as chairman of the committee, Ivanov Viktor Vladimirovich, agree with the resolution to award the sought academic degree to Nikolai Sergeevich Tolstov. Thank you. Therefore, dear colleagues and guests, I would like to announce that out of 4 members of the committee that took part in the vote, 4 voted in favor of awarding the academic degree of candidate of economic science to Tolstov Nikolai Sergeevich. The concluding statement from you. Thank you very much. I would like to express my gratitude to the chairman, the members of the Dissertation committee, for the contribution that's made this defense happen, and I will take into account all your critical remarks and suggestions in my future work. I would like to express my gratitude to the Department of Credit and Financial Management for helping me turning around my work to make it more focused. I would like to thank my research advisor, Kovalov Maxim Leonidovich, and for helping me to complete my work. Thank you. Nikolai Sergeevich, thank you very much. We congratulate you on being awarded the academic degree of candidate of economic science, and we hope that you continue your research and would like to see your work published in high profile academic journals. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, this session of the academic committee is thereby closed. I would like to ask the broadcast to be switched off. Thank you.